At my granddaughter's wedding, a shocking truth was revealed. She is just our family employee. The words hung in the air, sharp and jarring, like a clap of thunder in an otherwise serene day. Henry Carter felt the color drain from his face as gasps rippled through the pews filled with friends and family. His heart raced, the rhythm of it pounding in his ears as he tried to grasp the weight of that betrayal. Mia, a beacon of hope for the family, was suddenly reduced to a mere worker in a moment of careless drunkenness. At that moment, he wondered just how well he truly understood the life she led. As the ceremony unfolded, visions of Mia in her wedding dress filled him with pride, yet an uncomfortable tightness twisted in his gut. She had worked tirelessly to earn her place, navigating school and the burdens of family responsibilities. Memories flooded his mind: her hurried studies, the late-night phone calls, the sacrifices she made to care for his mother. Was that truly all she was to their family? The stark contrast between his ideals of family and the stark truth of Mia's reality gnawed at him. He had always prided himself on being a straightforward man, a hard worker, a devoted family man. But perhaps he had blinders on, seeing only what he wanted. Henry's pulse quickened as the ceremony continued, tension thick as the summer heat. Guests exchanged worried glances, hushed conversations crackling like static electricity. Anxiety gripped him. How could they discuss Mia like that? He wanted to confront the foolishness of the statement, to shield her from the crass judgment. Yet, amidst the emotional turmoil, a gnawing fear lingered. Was he too focused on maintaining his traditional values, making him blind to the evolving nature of family? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As perfection faltered and truths cracked the surface, despair twisted within him. He felt the weight of every expectation he had placed not just on Mia but also on himself. He gazed at her now, her smile faltering, the glow of excitement replaced by confusion and hurt. She deserved more than to be defined by the duties bestowed upon her, and yet, there he stood, paralyzed, fearing that he had not voiced the pride he felt. He had been so consumed with showcasing family values that he could not see Mia carving out her identity amidst sacrifices. A pang of anguish sliced through him as he reflected on his own adherence to stoicism, hiding emotions beneath layers of what felt like armor, generational armor. It stung to confront the potential legacy he may have inadvertently bequeathed to her, one of silent burdens masked under tradition. Had he placed Mia in a corner with his expectations, mistaking them for love? The remnants of hope began to slip from his grasp. As the ceremony came to a clumsy conclusion, Henry knew they were teetering on the brink. The family that had once felt like a steadfast foundation now felt like quicksand, and as Mia stepped outside, tears shining in her eyes, he was left bracing for a storm he could no longer ignore. Henry lingered at the church entrance, the sunlight too bright, almost blinding. Outside, laughter rang out from the reception, but to him, it sounded hollow, as if the harmony of that joyous occasion had been distorted. He could see Mia through the throng of guests, her shoulders hunched, an aura of fragility enveloping her as she stood alone. The world around him seemed to fade, and all he could focus on were the unshed tears pooling in her eyes. Each moment of silence struck Henry like a reminder of all the things left unsaid. He had always been the pillar in the family, the one who defined what home meant. But deep within, he started to question, had he kept their family in chains? He had never once considered that by defining roles within the family, he had inadvertently confined Mia to being just what that careless comment suggested. Lost in thought, the world around him blurred until he could almost hear the echo of that damning remark haunting his mind. Just an employee. The words crashed against his consciousness, rousing anger and guilt in equal measure. Determined to act, he took a deep breath and pushed through the crowd toward her, each step laden with the realization that his traditional beliefs were colliding with a burgeoning awareness of the complexities of familial relationships. Mia, he called softly, anxious about the quivering sound of his own voice. She turned toward him, her expression a mix of surprise and apprehension, as if she wasn't sure what this father-like figure was going to say. "Can we talk?" She hesitated, and for a fleeting moment, he feared she would turn away. But then, she nodded, and they moved to a more secluded spot near the flowered archway, where the cacophony of the party dulled to a comforting murmur. "I saw the way you looked when they said that." His voice trembled. "I want you to know that what they think what that drunkard said doesn't define you to me." Mia's eyes cast downward, her hands fiddling with the lace hem of her dress. "Grandpa, it's okay. People misunderstand what they don't know. I'm used to it." Henry shook his head vehemently. "No, it's not okay. You've done so much for this family. All those late nights, the sacrifices you've made. That's not simply help. You are integral. You deserve so much more than to be just seen as an employee." She finally looked up, a flicker of vulnerability breaking the surface of her stoic facade. "But I'm not like everyone else. I don't have a perfect life. I help because I feel it's my duty." Those words pierced through him like arrows, revealing the heart of a young woman caught in a web of obligation. "Is that how I made you feel?" he asked, his voice low and heavy with remorse. "I've failed to show you, failed to express how proud I am of you." Mia didn't answer, but the raw expression on her face compelled him forward. He could see her yearning for validation, the pride she longed for overshadowed by burdens she'd assumed out of love. As the reality dawned on him, a chilling realization gripped his heart. He had not only neglected to honor her contributions, but in doing so, he had stifled her. His perception of strong family values had blurred into a rigid hierarchy that confined rather than liberated. "I want to change that, Mia," he said, the resolve flooding him. "Let us transform how we define family. You are so much more." The tiniest smile flickered across her lips, but apprehension lingered in her eyes. "What does that mean?" The question hung in the air like a heavy fog, and Henry could sense he was on the cusp of a pivotal moment, one that could shift their entire dynamic. "What if you and I work together to find a new definition of our family? Perhaps one that embraces everyone's strengths, acknowledges the challenges, and gives us space to breathe?" But as he spoke the words, a nagging doubt wormed its way into his mind. Could he confront the deeper truth? Could he challenge his own ingrained beliefs and truly embrace this transformation? Henry took a breath, feeling the full weight of what lay ahead. The moment had passed, and a path toward renewal lay before him, but uncertainty clung to his heart like a fog, leaving him anxious about what this promise would demand of him. Outside, the laughter had softened into whispers, and he realized they were just at the beginning of something profound. "Let us take the first step together," he concluded, feeling an urge to grasp her hand and guide her forward. But just as he was about to reach out, his phone buzzed ominously in his pocket, a shadow of impending conflict that had yet to reveal itself. Protests from family members or a realization of just how deep-rooted misconceptions could run? The next phase of their journey had begun, but uncertainty loomed just beyond the horizon. Henry's heart raced as he pulled his phone from his pocket, the screen glaring back at him with a message from his sister. The simple text read, "We need to talk. I heard what happened with Mia." Each word felt like a punch to the gut, a discreet alarm announcing that the balance he'd just tried to forge crumbled under scrutiny. "Everything okay?" Mia asked, her expression a mixture of concern and the innocence of youth. He exhaled slowly, a tumult of emotions swirling within him. "I'll be right back. Just give me a moment." She nodded, her eyes shifting to the bustling reception, seemingly unaware of the tension that was about to engulf them. Henry stepped away, the laughter that had once been a backdrop now felt like a cacophony clamoring for his attention. Each laugh and cheer served as a reminder of the discomfort brewing just beneath the surface. Outside, he attempted to regain his composure, but as he typed out a response to his sister, the words felt loaded. How could he explain the shift in dynamic he was trying to establish with Mia, knowing the family's perception was so rigid? "Meet me in the courtyard," he typed finally, shaking his head at his anxiety. It was a small step, yet it felt monumental. The moments before his sister arrived were agonizing, filled with a hopeless anticipation. When she finally approached, her features were tight, and he could see the crest of anger bubbling beneath her facade. "Henry, what were you thinking?" she snapped, her hands on her hips. "Mia is not like the rest of us, and she never will be." Her words hung in the air, thickening the tension. That comment from John at the wedding, it shouldn't define what our family is. I can't just stand by while we reduce her to that label. Label? She laughed bitterly. It's not a label, it's reality. That's all she ever will be, someone we can call on to do the heavy lifting, not a part of our real family. What will people think? Other voices began to invade his thoughts, echoing the same sentiments he'd heard all his life. Just an employee. The heaviness of their expectations pressed down on him, but this wasn't just about family dynamics, it was about acknowledging Mia's worth. "You're blind, Henry," she continued, her tone condescending. "What happens when people see that? They'll think we're weak, divided. We've built a certain standard, a way of life. What will become of us if we let her think she's equal?" His mind churned. It felt sinful to deny Mia's capabilities. He didn't want her to feel chained by the family structure he'd once cherished. It was time for a reckoning, to acknowledge adjustments necessary in their family hierarchical thinking. "Mia deserves respect," he said finally, stubbornly holding his ground. "She's worked hard for us. Isn't that worthy of being recognized as family? Do you hear yourself?" She retorted, shaking her head. "This is foolishness. You're letting misplaced emotions overrule family loyalty. If everyone believes she's family, she'll become too comfy. It's your duty to maintain structures, keep this family in line." Henry clenched his fists, grappling with her rigid views. "And what kind of family is that? One built on dominance and fear? You think the way we've been handling things has stabilized us, but maybe it's done the opposite." Before he could finish, the tension in his gut twisted unnaturally. Could he truly fight against a worldview that had been instilled in him for so long? Would questioning it tear their family apart? As he glanced back toward Mia, standing silently alone beneath the archway, the weight of obligation he felt for her and shock from his sister's rejection festered like a wound. "Think about what you're saying," she finally said, her voice lowering, exhibiting a flicker of uncertainty. "You're risking everything we've worked for. Do you really want to gamble with the family legacy for her?" He felt every word cutting deeper. "Yes," Henry replied, newfound conviction igniting within him. "Because legacy should evolve, not remain shackled to old definitions." The response shocked them both. He had struck a chord, words ringing with clarity. But even as the conviction settled in, he couldn't ignore the steely resolve in her gaze as she contemplated what lay ahead. "Think carefully, Henry," she warned, stepping back into the shadows of the courtyard. "You may regret this." Shoving his phone into his pocket, Henry returned to Mia with renewed determination. But the path forward became clearer, yet infinitely more treacherous. The foundations of their familial ties felt ready to tremble, and he could sense an inevitable confrontation waiting to unfold. But could he really chase the change he so desperately craved, without further fracturing the fragile relationship built over years? His heart raced at the thought, and suddenly, he knew the real battleground lay ahead, deeper than he'd ever anticipated. Mia was waiting. Would she be ready to join him in redefining their family, or was it too late to alter the course steeped in old beliefs? Henry found Mia beneath the archway, still clutching a drink she had barely touched. Her eyes sparkled with youthful curiosity but also contained an unmistakable hint of apprehension. The laughter from within the venue faded into a dull roar, and for a moment, they existed in a bubble of their own intensity. "Mia," he began, his voice steadier than he felt. "Can we talk?" "Yes, of course," she replied, a quirk of her brow suggesting she sensed the gravity of the moment. He gestured toward a nearby bench, the slight chill in the evening air contrasting sharply with the warmth of internal conflict roiling within him. As they sat, he took a breath, and moments of revelation flashed through his mind, remembrances of Mia's hard work, moments of shared laughter, and even the veiled disdain from family members whose views stymied his desire for change. "Mia, about what my sister said," he hesitated, unsure where to lead but also determined to forge a new level of understanding. "Henry, I know I'm not part of the family the way they want," Mia interjected, a defensive edge creeping into her tone. "I've accepted my place. I'm just here to help." "But that's the thing," he responded, fervent resolve reawakening. "You do so much more than that. You deserve to be seen for more than just your role. My sister believes your worth is tied to servitude, and I refuse to accept that." Her eyes flickered, processing his words. "You're risking everything, aren't you? This isn't just about me, it's about your family, your legacy." He leaned closer, wanting to catch her full attention. "Maybe it's about building a legacy that welcomes evolution rather than clinging to outmoded ideas. I believe family should be defined by respect and love, not rigid hierarchies." She studied him. "But what if they can't see that? What if I'm just playing with fire?" The thought settled in his chest like a heavy stone. Heat surged at the realization that not only they faced pressure from outside but a battle within their hearts, fighting against an entrenched belief system. "We can redefine what family means, together," he assured, feeling a stirring of potential within the turmoil. "You are not just my family employee, you're worthy of being regarded as an essential part of us." In this moment, strengthening that bond could signal to everyone how it's meant to change. Mia's expression softened but a veil of doubt remained. "And what if they don't accept that? I don't want to be the wedge that drives you apart from them." "It's not about you being a wedge, it's about you being valued." His voice found a steadiness in conviction, his mind racing with possibilities and consequences. "The real wedge has been the way they've always viewed you. Breaking that mold is the only way forward for us both. But who am I outside of this role they've set for me?" Her voice trembled as the facet of vulnerability emerged, the weight of her identity flaring with uncertainty. "Can I really stand up alongside you, as an equal?" His heart harmonized with her doubts, sensing the crux of personal transformation looming before them. "You are already more than you know, Mia. You have talents, kindness, strength. You've taken on responsibilities that test you each day. Let us embrace that. We'll redefine your place together, but it has to start with believing in yourself first." Mia shifted her gaze downward, the internal battle wrapped in silence. As he watched her wrestle with his words, Henry felt a glimmer of hope sparkling in the ether between them, a possibility of mutual growth. But doubts lingered, waiting in the wings for the personal revelations to collide with the realities of their family dynamic. "Mia, are you willing to take this journey with me?" Henry asked, heart pounding as an undertow of fear mingled with hope. The question, simple yet weighted, drifted between them, visibly reshaping the nature of their connection. Mia looked up, hesitance stirring in her eyes. I don't know if I'm ready." His heart sank slightly, uncertainty welling up as the gravity of her words struck deep. But the moment her vulnerability shifted, the air around them vibrated with unresolved tension. The path of confrontation could lead to either liberation or loss. Could she summon the courage to stand by his side against the tide of tradition? Would her answer redefine their relationship forever? As they sat in uncertain yet charged silence, Henry knew they were at a crossroads, each heartbeat a question echoing through the charged atmosphere around them. Mia's doubt hung like a thick fog between them, and Henry shifted in his seat, the cool metal of the bench biting at his skin. Every instinct urged him to reassure her, to proclaim that they would forge a new path, but he realized the journey they faced together required more than just words. It called for shared courage, an acknowledgement of weakness, and a commitment to endure resistance. "Mia," he began softly, "you've been at my side through so much. It's not just your assistance I value, it's your insight, your vision. Think about times when you stepped up, times when you challenged the status quo." She looked at him, her face signaling both curiosity and wariness. "And what if those moments were minor?" She countered. "What if those victories are just drops in a bucket that will never overflow? I don't know how to redefine myself within that family dynamic." Henry glanced to the side, spotting a group of partygoers enjoying themselves, blissfully ignorant of the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. "But each drop contributes to the transformation, Mia. Minor victories lead to significant change. The words ignited something within him, a determination not only to uplift her but also to address the family's rigid views head-on. "We have an opportunity here," he asserted, voice gaining momentum. "If we both step forward boldly, we can create the momentum we need." "What do you mean?" she asked, her tone blending intrigue with skepticism. He squared his shoulders, feeling the weight of his own convictions driving him. "We need to confront my family. It's not enough for us to redefine your value quietly in the shadows. They must see you as an equal, not the help. I want you to join me at the next family gathering under a new light. We won't allow them to box you in any longer." Her eyebrows knitted together, apprehension creeping back into her expression. "And risk them rejecting me further? What if it backfires? Isn't that a risk worth taking?" His voice was more insistent now, each word solidifying his resolve. "You deserve to be recognized for who you truly are and not the image they've constructed. We stand to gain more than we lose. You need to believe you belong in that space." Mia hesitated, her fingers fidgeting with her necklace. "But what if I falter? What if I can't meet their expectations?" "Forget their expectations for a moment. Focus on your strengths. You've managed so much already, managing your fears is an extension of that. What if this moment becomes a turning point for both of us?" A flicker of conviction sparked in her eyes. Could she allow herself to believe it? She weighed the prospect firmly against their uncertain circumstances. The personal stakes were palpable, transcending her role in the family, a chance to confront not just their perceptions but her own. "Okay," she breathed out slowly, mind racing with the implications. "But I can't do this alone. We face them together, right?" An exhilarated smile broke across his face. "Together. You are stronger than you know, Mia, and I want to help you discover that. You don't have to hide from your potential any longer." The world around them melted, the noise of the gathering fading as a new reality crystallized. They were embarking on a complex path of assertiveness and confrontation. Each was uncertain of the outcome, yet entwined by deep intent. But as they sat in agreement, a shadow flitted across Henry's mind, the nagging doubt derived from the formidable family he had grown up with. The possibility of them doubling down on their incorrect perceptions of both him and Mia loomed. Would they ultimately back down? "Mia," he suddenly remarked, as a thought struck him, "we should prepare a plan, understand how to address common objections they might bring up. That way, we will go in ready." "Maybe we need to consider an even bolder approach," she replied, a hesitant glint of determination overshadowing her earlier fears. "If we're redefining my place, then we should redefine how we approach them too." Henry nodded vigorously, the weight of her words grounding them both. What if they came up with a way to showcase her innate capabilities? A defining moment beyond mere discussion, one that might challenge the very fabric of their family's rigid hierarchy. As they plotted possible strategies, the future began to unfold before them, a winding path toward confrontation and acceptance. The courage to stand firm neither belonged solely to Henry nor solely to Mia. It was a shared energy, a burgeoning mutual empowerment. But even as hope blossomed, a part of him cautioned against naivety. Was their plan strong enough to withstand the depth of his family's tradition? As the night stretched on, the stakes unveiled themselves, deeper than anticipated. The impending confrontation loomed like a storm, and the questions lingered: would they emerge unscathed, or would the ties that bound them to tradition prove insurmountable? A moment's pause hung in the air, their plans entwined with uncertainty, waiting to ignite the inevitable clash. A flicker of light from the mingling guests filtered through the dusk as the weight of their plans settled between them. Henry's heartbeat echoed in his ears as he envisaged the confrontation ahead. Mia's acceptance offered a semblance of hope, yet shadows of doubt skirted their potential victory. In the quiet after their agreement, Henry turned his focus inward. Recalling family gatherings filled with laughter that had always been tainted by a festering tension, he thought about the exchanges that had shaped his upbringing. Each elegant facade his family presented anchored their perceptions, a norm to which all members were expected to conform. Disrupting that foundation felt like an act of rebellion, but was he ready to blow the whistle on the culture of silence? Mia, He broke the silence, his voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of trepidation. What if we openly showcase your talents? We can shift the conversation to your accomplishments. She nodded slowly, her expression contemplative. I'm willing to try, but I'll need more than just a bold proclamation. I need examples, things I can demonstrate that show I'm not just the help. Right, he mused, a spark igniting within him. Let us craft a narrative around you, something personal yet professional. We could talk about your skills, maybe even a project you've worked on recently. That will give them a tangible understanding. The thought excited Mia. What about that community initiative I led last semester? The one that improved online resources for students? It was my idea, and I managed the whole campaign. Henry's eyes lit up. Exactly. We can present it as your significant accomplishment rather than just a passing project. You took the initiative, made impactful decisions, and engaged an entire group. Mia's enthusiasm began to reshape her apprehension. Discussing her effort in front of Henry brought her a sense of purpose. The transformation was palpable, the flicker of her self-doubt started igniting into glowing embers of confidence. You realize this is more than just who we convince them you are, he emphasized, eyes locking onto hers. This is also about solidifying your identity in this relationship and, dare I say, your professional growth. Really, Henry? She questioned softly, grasping the deeper implications of their exchange. You think I can redefine myself in that space? That I can craft my narrative not just for them, but for me? It's a start, he acknowledged, his voice filled with conviction. Every journey begins with a single step. Confronting their perceptions is as much an opportunity for you to assert your strength as it is for me to redefine my stance. We're breaking molds together. He watched as Mia absorbed the weight of his words, her internal debate playing out silently. Her thoughts were tangible, swirling with a cascade of possible outcomes. The person she saw herself outlining against so many voices had to stand firm to function as armor against inevitable challenges. I guess it's time I truly step into my own, she finally said, the uncertainty gradually melting away under newfound determination. Going into that gathering as someone they can't ignore is going to require all of me. Henry sensed a shift in her demeanor, a burgeoning resolve poised to take root. And if they push back? What will we do? How about we show them the strength of our unity? She suggested, her voice rising with excitement. If they see us as a team, it might redefine how they view both of us. He nodded in agreement, his spirit buoyed by shared ambition. This was a plan rooted in respect and authenticity, and it represented profound professional growth for both. It would challenge Henry to confront familial expectations while enabling Mia to champion her own narrative. As they tested their ideas, the clock ticked ominously in the background. The fateful family gathering loomed closer, a moment fraught with potential and possibilities, yet rife with risk. Outside, the night air grew still, thick with an electric tension that mirrored their own. The strength of their connection burgeoned, even against the shadow of upcoming opposition. Henry could feel it among them, a shared pursuit that not only sought transformation but fostered growth. The phone buzzed between them, a reminder of time slipping away. His expression hardened with resolve, yet the tension in his chest lingered, a shadow of anxiety. Would their plan suffice against the conservative tide of familial expectations? Determined, he grabbed hold of her hand. Together, we prepare for the moment. Whatever comes next, we'll navigate it as a team. Hours later, as the setting sun surrendered to the star-studded sky, they embraced their changes, feeling a potent concoction of dread and excitement line their spines. The conflict soon to unfold shimmered just beyond the horizon, a reflection of what awaited them, a bold future that could shatter old chains or entrench them even deeper in familial antiquity. What old scars would surface in the wake of their revelation? As twilight gave way to darkness, the gathering buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses, masking the tension that crackled beneath the surface. Henry stood at the edge of the room, scanning the familiarity of faces that had once been a source of comfort but had become a crucible of expectations. His stomach churned, the weight of their shared plan with Mia hung heavily on his shoulders. Mia had excused herself to mingle, a strategic move to assess the temperature of the evening before their confrontation. He could see her across the room, her posture more confident than he had ever seen. She laughed with a group of guests, trying out her new narrative, but fear lurked behind those expansive smiles. Henry admired her bravery. She was stepping into a world that had inadvertently dismissed her. Yet, that world was filled with the kind of judgment calculated to destabilize her newly acquired poise. He paced in a corner, replaying their conversation in his mind. What did it mean to assert oneself in a space laden with preconceived roles? The thought of Mia facing any harsh words sparked a primal instinct within him. Would he have the fortitude to defend her against the invisible walls of familial heritage, the whispered judgments that clung like spider silk? As the moments ticked by, he saw an opportunity. There they were, his parents, unobtrusive yet looming, chatting with distant relatives. Unbeknownst to them, their conversations shaped the atmosphere, laden with undercurrents of disparagement and lineage. The very lineage that had pressed upon his shoulders, sculpting him through expectations, demanded compliance. What if he lifted that burden for both of them? What if they could redefine these relationships together? The idea ignited a mixture of excitement and terror. If he could navigate the choppy waters of his family's expectations, focusing on Mia, couldn't they find a way to shift perceptions about their dynamic? Just do it, he whispered to himself, his breath uneven. Henry spotted Mia making her way toward him, her innate radiance contrasting sharply with the gray surroundings. Yet there was a question glinting in her eyes. He could read her uncertainty, the inklings of doubt still curling around her resolve. "Are you ready?" she asked, breathless, her voice barely above a whisper. "More than ever," he replied, masking his inner turmoil with the facade of confidence. They stepped into each other's space, their alliance fortified within the chaos. "Let us focus on your campaign. It's a good story, and you need to own it. I won't allow anyone to undermine that." With a brief nod, Mia's expression shifted, steeling itself against the tide of potential backlash they both knew awaited them. Together, they approached the heart of the gathering. "Let us start with your initiative," he suggested, knowing that drawing attention to her achievements could shift the entire narrative. "We can present it as not just an accomplishment, but a reminder of why you're here, that you matter." The guests turned their attention as Henry began weaving the narrative, emboldened by Michael's presence. Each word he spoke became a stepping stone, raising the stakes higher with every declaration of Mia's achievements. "She's not just the help. Mia exemplifies dedication and creativity we should be grateful for in our family," he proclaimed, channeling all the emotions of solidarity. Yet the response was immediate. Gasps erupted, whispers charged with disbelief began humming through the room, and Henry felt a pang of vulnerability. It was one thing to want change, another to demand it. Mia, though, rose to the occasion with a grace he hadn't expected. She echoed his sentiments, filling the air with descriptions of projects she'd spearheaded, her words pushing back against the tide of misunderstanding. The glimmer of newfound strength in her confidence shined brightly. But as the tension escalated, so did the rebuttals. "You dare to speak of your place among us?" A voice cut through the air, sharp with derision. It was his father, disbelief written in the features that characterized the family he had always toed the line for. This confrontation was the moment he feared, and now, it loomed, a chasm that could swallow them whole or redefine their existence together. Henry's heart raced. "Yes, I do," he countered, stepping forward, struggling to stand firm amidst their mounting scrutiny. Would this resolve be enough to withstand the backlash of familial upheaval? Would it fracture their ties or forge an unbreakable bond? The room stood still, and the collective breath held on the edge of sharp realization. Everything was on the table, every truth, every fear, coiling around the potential for a breakthrough, leaving the outcome tantalizingly uncertain. What would become of their plans now that the real battle had begun? The tension in the room was palpable, a sharp inhalation that felt like it might never release. Henry's pulse raced in synchrony with the demands of the moment, as his father's incredulous gaze locked onto him with a mixture of disbelief and simmering anger. Each second that ticked by redefined the reality they had to navigate. The hall, adorned with flickering candles, felt like a battleground, and every gaze from the guests was a potential weapon. "Do you hear yourself, son?" His father spat, the words loaded with the weight of generations. You're challenging the very foundation of this family. We have standards, traditions that stifle growth and talent, Henry interjected, an unexpected assertiveness threading through his unease. His voice, though shaky, carried a strength that surprised him. Mia's contributions matter. It's time we acknowledge contributions on merit instead of background. He could feel the heat rising in the room, the air thickening with a sudden, desperate energy. Mia stood steadfast beside him, her expression exuding a newfound fortitude that permeated the very fabric of their bold confrontation. Yet he could see the tumult within her, the subtle quivers that belied the strength she projected. As the reality of their family's expectations pressed down on them, Henry wondered whether her resolve would hold. Had they overstepped? Your place, his father scoffed, the dismissal poised like a guillotine above them. It was set for you before you were born. Who do you think you are, trying to upend everything? Someone who is tired of pretending, Henry replied, the words spilling with an honesty that felt liberating. He let the statement hang in the air, and with it came a clarity of purpose that coursed through him. He wasn't just defending Mia, he was honoring his own truths and longings buried under years of expectation. But it's not just that, Dad, he continued, his gaze steady. It's about recognizing the talented people we have among us, regardless of where they come from. Every syllable felt like a shift in authority, a severing of invisible ties that had bound him to a long history of compliance. He could almost hear the internal gears grinding in the minds of the attendees, the teetering scales of judgment against the fragile excitement of possibility. His mother's gaze flitted between Henry and his father, wringing her hands, a harbinger of the chaos that could follow this familial skirmish. She had always been the peacekeeper, and here she hovered, a witness to the disarray. Henry, she started, her voice softer yet still edged with apprehension. This isn't the time or place, but the storm had gathered, and Henry imagined the clouds breaking open, allowing a flood of revelation. The realization doused him in urgency. This was the moment he had waited for, not just for Mia, but for himself too. Maybe it's the only time, he said, more forcefully now. There was no receding, the momentum had shifted. We can't go on shackled by old constructs, pretending the new generation does not have a voice. With that, Mia pressed closer to him, a silent but potent affirmation of their alliance, of shared tenacity against inherited limitations. Together they became an echo of change, challenging the very edifice of their pasts. The room seemed to hold its breath. Whispers and gasps morphed into murmurs of dissent, yet there was an undercurrent of curiosity, now a crack in the armor of antiquated beliefs. Henry caught an approving nod from one of the distant relatives, a flicker of hope ignited amidst the doubts. But with hope came the weight of decisive action. Would they be able to carry this momentum forward, or would it sputter out, crushed under the unyielding pressure of familial allegiances? The question loomed, forcing Henry to ponder the ramifications of what they had initiated. I stand with Mia, he said, breaking the silence once more, determination hardening every word. And I hope you all can find a way to see the value in who she is, rather than just who you believe she should be. As he spoke those words, a wave of realization swept over him, an acknowledgement of options he had never allowed himself to consider. What, indeed, could they achieve if they forged ahead despite the pushback? But what if their combined strength still fell short against the entrenched expectations of family? The peril of it all rushed in like a tidal wave, their convictions anchoring them just as uncertainty threatened to sweep them away. Within that fragile space, new paths of response began to shimmer. Panic or possibility, which one would they choose? What was about to emerge from this moment, the energy of transformation or the looming shadow of collapse? The silence that followed Henry's declaration was deafening, the kind that reverberated through the very marrow of his bones. Mia's hand found his, a reassuring pressure that anchored him amidst the whirlwind he had unleashed. Their collective resolve seemed palpable, yet the prospect of annihilation hung heavily in the air like the storm that had threatened the evening. His father's expression contorted, a fleeting mask of disbelief replaced by a studied blankness as he weighed the implications of what Henry had just asserted. A flicker of something akin to panic merged with anger in the old man's eyes, as if he were attempting to fathom how his son had strayed so far from the familial path. Do you think this is a game? His father finally retorted, his voice pitched low, just above a whisper. The notion of being exposed for the truth that had been meticulously polished over years was now laid bare before a judgmental audience, and the stakes had never felt higher. A mix of dread and exhilaration coursed through Henry. To stand his ground might provoke devastation, yet to capitulate meant surrendering not only to his father's authority but also to the lifetime of expectations that had previously defined him. The weight of the moment pressured him toward commitment, urging him to lean into this newfound clarity instead of shying away. "I think this is about time," Henry replied, his voice steadier than before. "It's about time we embrace new opportunities." The vulnerability he felt morphed into a fuel that emboldened his stance. "I never expected you to take this position," his father confessed, but there was a quiver beneath the surface, a crack in the ironclad composure he had polished throughout his life. A vulnerability that, under different circumstances, would have made him appear human. Yet, Henry couldn't afford to let his guard down. He was no longer just the obedient son trapped beneath the mantle of family expectations. He was an advocate for progress, a voice demanding recognition for talent over tradition. Mia squeezed his hand tighter, her eyes shining with the reflection of their shared purpose. There was no reverting back to the shadows now. They were both emboldened by their confrontation, igniting potential dormant within them both. Holding the moment for what it was, a catalyst, they allowed the urgency of change to permeate rather than flee from it. Familiar faces had turned towards them, expressions ranging from shock to inquisitive, weighing the implications of rebellion against the foundations of family. Who would follow Henry and Mia? Who would stand in turmoil while their beliefs crumbled? The uncertainty was tumultuous, yet liberating. As the whispers lingered in the air, Henry contemplated the depth of their challenge. To advocate for Mia's South's rightful place would mean navigating a maze filled with pitfalls, some self-constructed, others born from family tension. Yet, amid the chaos born from their declaration, was an exhilarating undercurrent of hope, a promise of potential waiting to be unleashed. He understood this next step would demand more than mere words. Actions were needed to fortify their resolve. Change could not manifest from mere confrontation. It required relentless pursuit, adaptability, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Could he summon the courage to carry forth the narrative of their struggle? Could he cultivate allies within the tempest surrounding them? The question loomed larger, as exhilarating possibilities warred with the harshness of reality. Determined, Henry turned to Mia, who met his gaze with unwavering confidence, a shared understanding passing between them. They had embarked on a journey neither had anticipated. The upcoming hours would define not only them but the future of their families. Steeling himself against doubt, Henry directed his focus inward. What steps could he take to forge ahead positively? Little victories in mind and spirit emerged, fortifying his determination to see the dialogue evolve beyond this pivotal moment. The clamor around them began to morph into conversations. The energy resonated, bubbling with both opposition and curiosity. And so, as Henry stood on the precipice of potentially breathtaking change, he couldn't ignore what loomed on the horizon, a confrontation with his father that he knew would either empower or dismantle everything he had begun to build for Mia, for himself, and for his family's legacy. The time had come to face the inheritance that had weighed him down for far too long. Would he embrace a future defined by new constructs, or would he let the past confine him? The answer awaited, just beyond the battlefield of words and wills. The din of conversations swirled around Henry and Mia as they stood together at the heart of the gathering, but noise faded into insignificance compared to the gravity of what they were about to undertake. Henry felt a swell of urgency inside him, even as doubts flickered like shadows at the edges of his consciousness. They had dared to challenge the norm, and now it was time to solidify their resolve. Together, he murmured, squeezing Mia's hand as they planted their feet firmly in the ground, prepared to face whatever storm might come. He could almost hear the questions spiraling in the minds of their family members, wondering how far he intended to take this stand. "Mia," he began, voice steady but reverberating with emotion, "today is about you. You are not merely filling a role, you are contributing profoundly to our family dynamic. We need to highlight all that you've accomplished, not just for us, but for you. You deserve to be recognized for your potential." And just as he finished, a ripple of discontent rippled through the room. Whispers bounced off the walls. "You're obsessed with this idea, Henry," his sister interjected sharply, arms crossed tightly over her chest, her irritation piercing through the celebratory atmosphere. You think that by inflating Mia's importance, we'll forget who she really is? This is just foolishness. But Mia, emboldened by the unfolding consensus, lifted her head and faced the onslaught bravely. I may be your family employee, but I'm also a person with aspirations, dreams, and talents. I want to share how I can contribute to this family beyond what is scripted on a piece of paper. Silence surged like a tidal wave, a collective breath taken as they replayed Mia's fierce declaration, a powerful pivot against the tide of dismissive agreement. The words were not only an assertion of her worth, but a bold declaration of self-identity, cascading through the room like sunlight breaking through clouds. Henry's chest expanded with newfound pride. She had stepped away from the roles handed to her, standing strong in her authenticity. Can you define your worth just by your duties? He pressed on, feeling the momentum shift under them. Why can't we begin to see each other for who we really are? We've all been wearing masks, navigating a family structure that demands conformity instead of celebrating individuality. Mia brings skills and creativity that could redefine our approach, and ignoring that would be a mistake. A tentative nod rippled through the audience, and for a fleeting moment, Henry felt a glimmer of hope wash over him. Henry, while I understand your desire to redefine family values, his father began, his voice layering authority over the uncertainty, those lower roles exist for a reason. We've done things this way for generations. If we allow sentiments to unravel our structure, we risk everything. But Henry's own belief in change burned brightly. It suddenly felt like they were no longer tiptoeing around old traditions but standing at the crossroads of possibility. Tradition shouldn't be a cage, Henry countered. It should guide us but not restrict us. I want to redefine our legacy not just as a family but as individuals who dare to break the mold. To grow, we must leave behind outdated definitions. As he spoke, a collective pause settled over the crowd. The clash of perspectives was stark, and he could see flickers of contemplation in the eyes surrounding him. Mia's contributions merit recognition, and today we embrace that potential, he continued, his voice unwavering. Let us take this opportunity to open dialogues, let us relinquish chains that bind our perceptions. Something shifted in the atmosphere, a recognition of earnestness. Conversations began to ignite not with hate, but with curiosity and contemplation, as they assessed their own histories against the weight of expectation they had carried. Henry felt as if the world had tilted slightly in their favor. Voices began meandering into affirmations and questions rather than criticism, a transformative pivot ignited from his defiance, and it was almost surreal. Mia, one cousin called out, tell us more about that initiative. How did you make it happen? With Henry standing strong at her side, Mia began to share her experiences. I conducted surveys, gathered data, and engaged with students to understand their needs better, she explained, confidence rising with every word. It wasn't just about me leading, it was about listening and collaborating. That produced real change. Their family stirred at her words, airplanes breaking the sound barrier of complacency. Here was a chance to reboot their narrative, dispelling misconceptions one powerful affirmation at a time. Henry watched as Mia glowed amidst the approval growing from the crowd. She expanded upon details of her initiative, her strategies, unveiling a woman brimming with untapped strengths. The more she shared, the more eyes softened, skepticism began to dissipate like morning mist yielding to the sun. As the conversation transitioned from confrontation to exploration, Henry felt a profound sense of relief wash over him. They were not just defending Mia, they were illuminating the path toward embracing uniqueness within their family dynamics. Mia is not just an employee, he affirmed. She is a vital force in making our family whole. I want to move forward where we recognize the richness in diversity, unshakable in our history but unyielding to isolation. It dawned on Henry that family legacy was not a stone-carved history, but an ever-evolving narrative that could transform with each generation. They stood together now, at an important junction, unified in purpose and wisdom. As the evening marched on, the buzz around Mia's achievements turned into invigorating discussions, curiosity igniting about her role not just in the family, but as a candidate for incredible professional journeys ahead. The kaleidoscope of vibrant conversations blossomed and shifted the energy in the room. The air had become electric with potential. In that moment, Henry understood that he had broken free from the expectations tethering him. He had allowed vulnerability to overcome disengagement and channel hope into action as a means of redefining both his and Mia's identity within the family. And as their family gathered around to deepen the conversation, to question, to engage, to grow, Henry felt a solid sense of confidence wash over him. They were no longer constrained by lasting perceptions. They were nurturing a fresh narrative, one rooted in recognition, respect, and gratitude. This was the beginning of an evolving legacy, and as they left that day, he realized they had created a new family dynamic. A family that aspired to welcome voices of change, fostering individual strengths and celebrating shared experiences. Together, we've just begun, Henry whispered to Mia, pride swelling within him. She turned to look at him, a budding smile on her lips as the realization of their journey ahead illuminated the path before them. What they confronted that evening would ripple through generations, an essential breakthrough that began not as an act of rebellion, but as a quest for understanding, for identity, and for true validation. Together, they had conquered the surrounding chaos and transformed it into a wellspring of possibility, a family redefined. As the night deepened, they stepped confidently into the future, committed to nurturing this new chapter underlined by recognition and respect. The legacy of their family had shifted. It lived now in the embrace of authenticity and the promise of evolution. Together, they had shaped a new foundation, a launch into a future forged by their own terms, a beacon resonating with hope for all who dared to challenge the status quo. Now, Henry rested assured in the invaluable truth that family could both honor its past and embrace an ever-evolving future. He stood alongside Mia, ready to navigate it together, united in belief, anchored by love, and empowered by shared growth. As they walked out into the night, both felt invigorated by their newfound strength, ready to share their story and inspire others to confront the truths that lied beneath the surface of their lives. This was the moment to act, to challenge, and to thrive, and they were poised to conquer it all. For those who resonate with their journey, take a moment to reflect on the changes you might inspire within your own families. You need to subscribe now so you won't miss the upcoming stories of personal growth and overcoming odds. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and boost these stories. Comment below your reactions or theories about this transformative journey. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who could benefit from this renewed narrative. Your support is crucial for our community's mission of growth and affirmation.